Welcome to the Invisible Wheelchair Podcast. I'm your host, Donald Grodoff, along with my wife, Gina. Our goal is to give voice to the hidden mind of obsessive-compulsive disorder, better known as OCD. In this podcast, we are interviewing yet another person dealing with OCD either professionally or personally. So stay with us for this impactful conversation. We would love to have your comments or to have you as a guest, or if you wish to tell your OCD or anxiety story, please visit us at invisiblewheelchair.com. So let's find out more about who we're interviewing today. Today I'm delighted to introduce to you Kim Feeney. Kim is a licensed independent social worker and a registered play therapist supervisor in Davenport, Iowa. She has over 10 years of experience helping children and families lead healthier emotional lives. Believing all behavior is purpose-driven, she works with parents and children to find alternative ways to meet social and behavioral needs. Let's join that interview. Now, before we get to that interview, let's hear a word about our sponsor.
Today I'm here to talk about Q Science's sleep spray. Q Sciences has a number of different sprays. There's a melatonin sleep spray that contains melatonin, 5-HTP, and L-theanine. And we've used other melatonin products to help our children with falling asleep. Melatonin is something that occurs naturally in our body that helps us quiet and calm down for sleep. And yet I really feel like I've seen a difference in the spray versus other products. Our youngest is here to talk about it. What things did you like better about the spray versus the other things?
I don't like the chew tablets because they leave like a weird taste, and they're mainly like they also have like you get bits in your teeth.
Okay, so Q Science's spray.
It's a lot better, I'd say. The taste is pretty decent and it works well.
Okay. I'm happy with the quality of these products and how they're helping our whole family. If you'd like to learn more,
simply go to qsciences.focusedhealthyfamily.com. That's the letter Q, sciences.focusedhealthyfamily.com, or visit invisiblewheelchair.com and find out more information there.
there are a lot of supplement products out there, yet you want one that's of good quality. Check out Q Sciences for your family.
And now let's get to that interview. So Kim, thank you so much for being part of the Invisible Wheelchair podcast. I welcome you today.
Thank you. I'm very happy to be here.
So the first thing, Kim, what I ask all my guests is to give kind of maybe a little bit of a story, a personal story, maybe about yourself or how you got started or something like that. I always like to give my audience a different view of you than just the professional side.
Absolutely. I will kind of give you my origin story. I grew up with helping professionals all around me. My mom was a special education teacher and retired after 40 years. My dad worked with adults with mentally and physically handicaps and challenges. So like I said, helping professionals was kind of in my blood. And then as a teenager, I went through my own mental health challenges, suffering from depression and anxiety. And my therapist was so important in my life in shaping who I am and who I have become, that was something I wanted to do. Growing up, I always wanted to be, like I said, a helping professional. First, it was like a teacher and then a pediatrician. And when I knew I couldn't handle the blood and guts, I decided on counseling. And then, like I said, my own counselor was so integral in, helping me learn and grow through my mental health challenges, that working with kids was just a natural fit. And I've done it for over 10 years now, and I love it. And every day is wonderful and exciting. It has its challenges as well, but I love the rewards that it brings.
Well, you are working with kids, so challenges are like part of that. So I know, having 3 kids myself and working some with kids, it can be challenging and fun at the same time. So it's good. I'm kind of excited today about this because it's about play therapy, and I get a kick out of play therapy. I think it's great. But I wanted to explore it more because I don't know if I fully know the potential of it, how it works. So can we talk a little bit? You can talk a little bit about as far as your business, and then how does it work, and what do you do in play therapy? Is it just all play and have fun and jumping around?
For the kids, that's how we want it to seem, that it is just play. Kids don't have the verbal abilities, and their brain hasn't developed that cognitive piece to express their feelings verbally. So they do it through what they do best, and that's playing. So whether it be through the dollhouse or puppets or sand or art, I mean, there's so many different ways and experiential activities that we can use. And it's really not about the tools or the toys themselves. It's more about developing that genuine relationship with the child and the counselor, and them feeling safe enough to play out and express themselves through the play. And again, that can be through a variety of ways. We use music and movement and, like I said, art and toys and puppets. And if you look in my room, it's just like a Toys R Us exploded. But it's just kids playing out their feelings, and they can do that whether it be a school issue, a divorce, a loss, if it's like traditional mental health stuff like ADHD, anxiety, they work through it and they process it through the toys and through the relationship.
So I don't know if this is a good question or not, but is there what is a typical therapy session kind of like? Just a maybe general one right at the moment.
Absolutely. The kid comes in the room, and I always start the session the same way. In here, you can do almost everything you want to do. You can say anything that you want to say. And if there's something that's not okay, I'll let you know. And then they pretty much go free, and they pick whatever they want to play at that time, whether it's the kitchen or, like I said, at the dollhouse, or if they want to draw. So a majority of the session is what we call non-directive or child-led. The kid gets to pick their activities, especially in the beginning of the treatment, because we want to, like I said, build that relationship and allow them to explore. And it allows me a chance to find out what they like, what they don't like. So as we get further into the process, when I am doing more directive activities or instructional stuff or skill-based, I can tailor them around the things they like. If a kid likes art, I'm going to do more of a drawing activity when we're getting into building stuff. Or if a kid gravitates toward the sand, I'm going to do more sand tray interventions with that child. So it really is about figuring out what that kid likes and making it individualized.
We talked, Bill, before about this podcast is focused towards like OCD and, of course, high anxiety, which is really what OCD kind of comes down to. And I know you don't diagnose OCD, but you follow kids that have those kind of traits. Mm-hmm. How is your therapy different, or what do you do with a child that may have OCD traits? Is it different than what I don't know if I want to say it with a normal child, but how is it different, or what do you do with a child that shows OCD traits?
Absolutely. Because every, service and treatment plan is individualized. With a child with OCD tendencies or really high anxiety, I will do things to lessen that by like incorporating messy play, like shaving cream or finger paint or in the sand, or, modeling the courage to be imperfect myself is a huge one in that. And just letting the child know that it's okay to make mistakes. And I teach that to the parents as well, that just, narrating your thoughts and letting them know that humans aren't perfect, and that's all right, that we don't have to be these, China doll figures that the kid has made in their head, and just allowing them that freedom and flexibility to explore the world and to be themselves. Like I said, we use movement, show me what it's like when you feel like you made a mistake on your math paper and you have to erase so many times there's a hole in it, and they'll act like a stiff pencil. I'll be like, what would it feel like if you didn't have to erase it so many times, or if you could only erase it twice? And then they, they'll loosen up a little bit. And it's interesting to see the wheels turn in their heads and how they, like, the light bulb comes on. And obviously it takes some time to get to that point, but just watching that transformation and to see the kids loosen up, the kids that'll, like, when I put slime or shaving cream out, and they just barely touch it with their finger the first time. And then in like 6 weeks, they're like, their hands are in it and it's messy and they're all over it. And I get such enjoyment out of that, to see that transformation. So it really all comes down to just loosening them up a little bit and allowing them the freedom to make mistakes and having that safe environment that they can do that in.
So maybe you could give us an example of a success. It doesn't have to be OCD, but the success with a child. You know, what they started out like, and then what you saw as the result.
Absolutely. I do have a lot of high anxiety kids, especially, I will say, with the pandemic, that has brought about a lot of anxiety in people. Some pick it up from their parents, because we're all nervous as well. We're not sure what to expect. So I have kids, you know, they'll come into my room and they're very timid and hesitant. And like I said, it's a fun, enjoyable place. The walls are colorful. There's posters, there's toys, there's all kinds of things that kids can do, but they're hesitant and they're like, is it okay for me to do this? And like I said, I'll open it up with, you can do almost anything you want in here. Really, my only rule is no hurts for either the toys or the people, but everything else is pretty much fair game. And they'll be like, okay, can I use that paintbrush? Or, you know, can we play with the Legos? And they're very timid and everything is prompted and they're questioning. And that's how a lot of the anxiety kids start. They're just very unsure of themselves and unsure of the process. But then, you know, after a couple of times, they're more comfortable with me. Like I said, we're building that trusting relationship, and they're a little more freer in the playroom. They'll go up to things and they'll free play. And then maybe they'll check back and look back to make sure I'm still watching or paying attention. And again, to make sure that it's okay. And I'll reflect that. I'll say, I see you checking back and making sure that what you're doing is all right. And just reassuring them that I'm there and that it is okay. And then eventually, I would say on average, it's 3 to 4 weeks to develop that relationship and that trust factor. And then I'll start doing some more directive things. Like I said, the shaving cream or the slime or things like that I'll introduce. And yeah, they'll be real timid, or I'll be like, do you want to mix the slime or do you want me to do it? And most of the time they'll start with me doing it. And then we'll get to like a 50-50, or they'll get to where they'll do it with a spoon. And again, it's all those gradual steps, which is totally okay. So, but the kid that I'm thinking about, again, started in real hesitant, and slime was kind of the gateway, because all the kids right now love slime and they wanted to fit in and have that experience. So again, I started with mixing it and then we built it up. And in a few weeks, he was doing it and his hands were messy and drippy. And it was at that point I knew that we were on the right track and moving in the right direction.
So it kind of, it sounds like building self-esteem, building self-confidence, things like that, you know. Yeah, well, that sounds
all those things. It's like you get that one piece and the dominoes kind of fall into place. Yeah. There's something that we look for. We call it the crucial C's. We want kids to feel like they're capable, that they matter. So we look at capable, count, courage, and connection. Those are the 4 things we want every child to feel, so that they matter, that they're important, that they can master tasks, that they can try new things, and that they have a support network.
And that connection, from what I was looking on your website, it looks like the connection is not only with others or with parents, but it's also really connecting back to themselves, you know, kind of connecting with themselves in a way too, it sounds like. Absolutely.
We want the kid to gain insight into the reasons they are behaving the way they do on a developmental level. But I believe every behavior has a purpose or a goal or is meeting a need. So my job is to allow that child to be able to open their eyes to what that need is, and then find a more socially appropriate or efficient way to get that need met.
Well, my wife and I, like I say, we work with families, and one of the things we came up with, we do actually do workshops, we call it behavior as a foreign language, that the behavior isn't the issue, it's what's underlying at the root of it. What you're doing is falling right in line with that. You're seeing the behavior as not the issue, but what's going on underneath it, and that's great. I wanted to ask you, do you do groups with kids too?
We do have different groups. We do groups for like social skills or anger management. They're like problem specific groups, because I want kids to realize that they're not alone, that there are other people that are dealing with the same issues that they are. And they're like, I have a group for like older kids and younger kids, different age groups and different areas that we target. Absolutely.
So let's talk about the different therapies, because as I explored your website, and I noticed you have Adlerian, you have EMDR, you have TheraPlay, and you have sand therapy. So can we break each one of those down? Because I think I read over them a little bit, but that didn't give me the full story, I think, with them. So can we talk about each of those and what they do?
Most definitely. Adlerian play therapy is where I got my foundation and my start. It is that belief that every behavior is goal driven, and that we're trying to find that purpose and that need for that behavior. And I look at all my clients from that framework. So that's why that's on my website. That's a lot of my training. And foundationally, like I said, that's kind of where I conceptualize everybody. And then I kind of pull in the different specialty areas if needed. Like EMDR is a lot for trauma. With EMDR, the brain kind of gets stuck when it gets trauma. It's like a record that keeps skipping over and over, or a YouTube video that's buffering and won't load, and the brain gets stuck there. So through the use of the eye movement or bilateral stimulation, which is incorporating both sides of the brain, we can get the brain unstuck, where then the child can look back on that traumatic experience as just a memory that happened, as opposed to having like flashbacks and feeling like it's continually happening in the moment. Then TheraPlay is more for attachments and relational with parent and child. So the parent is involved in every session, and it's just teaching them different ways of interacting. And it's looking at different things. We look at structure. Is the parent able to structure and set limits? Are they able to engage with the child? And is the child able to engage with the parents? And then nurture, is the parent able to provide nurturing, and is the child willing to accept it? And challenge, again, is the child willing to try new things? So those are the 4 areas that we kind of look at through a TheraPlay lens. And again, like I said, it's more of a family session and incorporating different activities from that aspect. And then sand tray is another one of my passions. It's where we use sand in miniatures, like little Happy Meal figures, and I've got thousands of them that I've collected over the years. And the kids just create stories or movies in the sand. It's just another way for them to process the activities and the events. And sometimes some of my teenagers will use more abstract miniatures for things, whereas the little kids are more concrete in their movies and miniatures. But it's a sensory experience with the sand, and we incorporate breathing, and they get to create the actual movie. Sometimes I'll even record it on my phone so they can go back and watch it, and they really enjoy it.
It sounds like fun. I'm going to come over there and play a little bit. And you said that, and I had made a note about sensory. It sounds like you work a lot with sensory, because you're talking about touch and feel, and the sand. I can imagine that's just a really good thing for. So you do work a lot with sensory issues, I take it then.
Absolutely. And there is another form of play therapy that's play that I'm certified in as well, that is especially for like autism children or kids with sensory processing disorder. We work with like that proprioception, the pressure on the skin, the sensory with like the shaving cream or the slime or the sand, and then just like movement of their body and how to control their body, where their feelings are in their body, and all that's just really important for those types of kids.
And have you worked with a lot of autistic children?
I have throughout the years. I have a handful on my caseload right now. Yeah.
So it's a very different therapy, I would imagine, for them.
Yeah, it's a totally different approach. The neurodevelopmental kids, they're definitely more concrete. I'm going to use less stories, less metaphors, whereas with neurotypical kid, you can use like books and movies and references like that, whereas like an autistic kid doesn't quite understand that. They're more, like I said, concrete and literal in their thing. So it's more skill-based, more concrete education, like one-to-one teachings.
And I was curious too, is do you work virtually?
We have done some telehealth. It is a little more challenging without the toys, but there are some websites that have like a virtual sand tray or a virtual dollhouse, so I can share my screen and the kids can take control and do it that way. Absolutely.
Is that how you did you go to that during the COVID time?
I did it for 2 solid months and when COVID first started. Yeah.
But then you were able to get back into the office.
Slowly I was able to transition back. I still have a handful of kids and parents that aren't quite comfortable coming back to the office yet. So we do offer telehealth as an option.
And do you, so out of state, or do you only be able to do it within Iowa or in Davenport, or how?
Due to licensing requirements, we're stuck with Iowa. I am licensed in Illinois as well because we're on the border. And during telehealth, I did have some clients that were in Illinois. They came over the bridge from Illinois. So I got licensed in Illinois so I could do telehealth with them. So if you're in Illinois or Iowa, we'd be happy to help you.
Okay. Well, that's good to know, because I crossed that bridge many times as a child. So I know that they're close by there. Just, I guess what I'll ask, last thing, kind of ask you, if somebody is in a place right now where they're having behavior issues, or they're starting to recognize there's something not going right with their child, what kind of advice would you give them?
I would say, number one, to realize that you're not alone, that mental health issues, especially in the world we're living in currently, are prevalent, and even with kids, they happen and they occur. So don't panic, take a breath. I would say with kids, I would definitely recommend a play therapist. If you look on the Association for Play Therapy website, there's a play therapist directory and you can find one in your area, and reach out. Don't be afraid to reach out. If you have trouble finding one, I'll leave you my website at the end of the show and you can reach out to me and I'll help you find somebody. That's not a problem at all.
Oh, thank you. That's wonderful, Kim. I appreciate that. So we'll take it to that place. How best can somebody find you? Different ways of being able to get a hold of you or find out more about you. Absolutely.
You can. The best way to do it is my website, butterflybeginningscounseling.com, and that is beginnings with an S. So, yep, and that'll lead you to all our social media, all our blogs, our YouTube, all the resources.
Well, just a quick question: where did the butterfly? Where did that come from? Is that something from your childhood, or
it is? It's kind of a personal metaphor for me. I've always loved the metaphor of transitioning and changing and growth. I've loved butterflies for since a very young age. So that is that story.
I should have probably started out with that, because that's a neat little story there by itself. Mm-hmm. So, well, Kim, it's been fun to talk with you. I would love to come play with you sometime. Get in there and play that sand and make some movies or something.
When you come back to Davenport, give me a shout.
So, thank you so much for being part of this today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. It's been enjoyable.
This concludes this podcast. We hope you will subscribe if you haven't already. Remember, we would love your comments, or if you have a story to tell, we want to put it up on the podcast. Simply go to invisiblewheelchair.com to do that. Don't forget to like us on Facebook at Invisible Wheelchair Podcast. If you or someone you know would like to be a guest, we love guests. So simply go to invisiblewheelchair.com and contact us from there. Gina and I are here to help you or your family get to a better place naturally. Simply visit focusedhealthyfamily.com for more information. Thank you for joining us on this journey. Keep tapping and focusing forward for a better way.